Soul to Scene podcast. I'm Andy Cooper from RMS Motoring, and today I'm joined by Gary Riley.
Greetings.
And Ross Annett.
What's happening?
And if you missed the last show, definitely worth going back listening to episode 25 with Anthony Hughes about taking the L200s to Ukraine. What a listen. That guy. What unbelievable as I...
And he's about to do it all again.
And he's about to do it all again. So
he's dedicated.
Get on and donate. But on to this week's show, we've loads to talk about. First of all, maybe some sad news. Passing away of Craig Breen, rally driver. Mm-hmm. Guy from Waterford, a huge part of rally culture. Graham Curry has written a fantastic article on Craig, his life, his rallying life. Graham's followed him very closely over his career. Some great coverage there, but very, very sad news, very much before his time. One of those things that I don't know, is it that motorsport's become a lot safer, but it seems to come as a bigger shock nowadays. I don't know what it is. There's that much safety and health and safety and all the rest, and the cars are prepared to such a standard.
There is that, but I think it also just in Ireland, the rallying community is quite small and very well known, and they all know each other, so it always seems to hit a bit harder with someone over here. But certainly, like my family's been involved in rallying. I've been a navigator myself many times and been out, and the cars are a lot better screwed together now than they used to be, and the safety measures are more extreme. But you just can't account for everything, and I don't really know the ins and outs of how Craig Breen died, but I did hear that something came in through the car post or something, so you just can't account for the things happening. Yeah,
he was testing and wasn't in Croatia.
Like the best roll cage in the world just won't protect against that.
Yeah, frightening, absolutely frightening. So sad news about Craig, and as I say, give Graham's article a read in RMS. It's
very good. It's very good.
But other things, like one thing I didn't get to, but Ross, I hope you can tell me all about it, even though I have this on my list, is this year's Dubshed. I was stuck in the traffic and then had to abandon, and that was because there was traffic issues.
Well, there was two things. There was traffic issues, and there was a bit of a bump on the Hightown Road and that there, and just things were gridlocked for a couple of hours, I think. So things completely out of the guy's control.
Oh, totally. But by all accounts, from the pictures I saw and the amount of cars at the show and all the rest,
it was genuinely like we've waxed lyrical about how good the guys are and what a good show they put on time and time again. And this show again for me was even better. Like last year's was a real step up. They had two halls opened up. There was the VAG hall and then there was the non-VAG hall. Mm-hmm. This year it followed the same suit. It's just the quality of the cars, the quality of the show that those guys put on, the organisation. Things were just... They really couldn't have done things better if they had tried. It was amazing, and it's great to be a part of that with those guys.
I loved the trophies. They were absolutely
amazing.
Epic.
Amazing.
Did you see these, Gary? They were like a early 80s dash. So I actually thought it was a dash from a UR Quattro, but it's actually a dash from a Digifant dash from a Mark II Golf GTI or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's like a wee digital display, and it was backlit and stuff like that as well.
That's Brian over there at Comco. Brian Shortshift. He's amazing what he does. The guys give him a brief, and he really is like one of those there nutty professors. He just comes up with the weirdest, maddest shit, but he puts it together in a way that nobody else can do, and even when they were doing the prize giving, so it was backlit, and obviously, old retro 80s Volkswagens were green dashes, but he put in the LEDs, so Nigel was in the background changing the LED colour depending on what colour a car was coming up.
Oh, amazing.
It was amazing. It was just fantastically done. There's so many good things you can say about the show. Like there was just... It's one of those things that for a show of that size... Mm-hmm. The relaxed atmosphere, the friendly nature of everything, seeing people who you might see every other week or you might not see until the previous show or since the last show. And it's just the same friendliness, it's the same kind of just really nice, relaxed attitude on a large scale. It's just, I said, it's lovely to be part of that. It's lovely to be there as an exhibitor. Very tough when we're exhibiting. You don't get a lot of chance to get around the show, so we're very fortunate that the guys allowed us to be in early on the Friday to get set up.
Yeah.
And that allowed us a wee early sneak peek and a walk around. And once again, the sound of the cars, like, it was just amazing. Like, We have Gemma off the forum.
Yeah, she's bagged her
She's
R34.
bagged her. So again, it's fucking awesome because, you know, it's she doesn't give a shit about, you know, what people say or do or whatever else. That's her car. She's made it her own, and she's bagged an R34, and people who were there absolutely loved it. You know, it was just it was amazing. David Murph had his 350Z on the stand, and with the hugest, noisiest exhaust. I thought my car was loud, but David's is just ludicrous. So it is. Fresh paint jobs. It was just, there's so many cool things about it.
Yeah, and look, there's a couple of guys who have come out of the woodwork in RMS recently, who were at the show and started posting up photos of some of the stuff they've built. And it's like, right, get a build thread going because that looks awesome. The guy with the like Ruby Stone S14, oh, amazing,
fantastic. Renna's just photographed that there, and as good as his photographs are, when you see the paintwork, it's just perfection. It's gorgeous, so it is, and different wee lips and flips. There's something really nice about, you know, it's not just the standard kind of show car. Everything's a wee bit tweaked, and, you know, Gavin and Blackline had an amazing stand.
Yeah,
a couple of cars they had in that there. It was like this mad wee Fiat Panda, but the whole inside of it was digital. There was air in it, there was the sound system, there was just so many cool things there. It was just, as I said, it's amazing to see, and it's amazing to do, and you know, most of our listeners listen to the
Reload podcast,
Nigel and Connor and Lee. Those guys give a really funny kind of rundown after Dubshed.
I've listened to it. Well, that's well worth a listen as well.
It's definitely worth a listen. So it is.
We'll put a link to that in the show notes, because those guys are doing a tremendous job, and I can't say it enough. So glad we're so lucky to have them, and it's so great to see that a local show so well supported as well, because hopefully that hardens the organisers to keep at it and keep bringing us this amazing thing. Because if you don't remember before Dubshed, there wasn't a lot.
There wasn't a lot. Although, can any of us ever forget Belfast and Furious? Just remember that.
There was Finton as well, but those were different days when everyone sort of stood outside the show and watched people drift up the hill. Those days are gone.
Yeah, and you used to have stuff in the Odyssey and all that, but it's, you know, what was 100% modified? Or
yeah, that's right. All those sort of shows.
When you listen to Gethin and that, they're talking about what they've came from and where they are now. Yes, there's so much work involved in it, but I think they kind of owe it to us now that, you know, they've got this far. They have to keep doing it because, you know, they have. There was cars came over from Scotland. There was cars came over from England.
Yeah.
Actually, one off the show, there was two beautiful. Right opposite my stand, there was guys in a yellow RS4, the B7 shape one, and then a blue S4, again estate, the B7 shape. They were flipping gorgeous cars, like everything about them, just the last word. And those guys came from Scotland over to here because they know what Dubshed is.
Yeah.
You know, there was, and they weren't the only two. There was loads of other ones. There's big companies coming from England. Auto Finesse came over and put on just a stand that you have to stand back and just go wow at. You know, they've got what do you call them? The Airstream camper vans.
Yeah.
But like the whole flipping side of this thing, it's like on hydraulics or something. So when they start the show up and this thing just lifts up and going, holy shit! Like,
that's how to do it.
It's just so impressive. So it is. Sam's detailing. He's another cool guy. Like I chatted to him on both days. And funny, that's the other thing. Even though, you know, there's businesses like mine, you know, there's loads of other people. There's just no kind of gliping and bullshit, and there's nothing else on. It's just people are there to have a bit of fun, have a bit of crack, speak to people, sell a wee bit of stuff. But it's being there is kind of the thing that's there to be done, as opposed to just you know, you're there to sell and that's it. Because if that's your attitude, you're missing out on what Dubshed's all about.
Something I love seeing actually is people from England, Scotland come over to shows here, because for so long it's kind of been our way around. All the big stuff happens over there and we go there, and like, you know, they'll come over maybe for the TT or something like that, or sorry, not the TT, but, you know, the Northwest 200.
Yep.
But other than that, the car shows were never really a big draw over here, so it's good to see that.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
So actually, we're on the map.
Absolutely. Look, we've again, there's pictures on the forum of the show and all the rest. It was it looks spectacular. I'm not going to make the same mistake of missing it again.
Don't. It's one of those ones that there literally is. People love to have a bitch and moan thing about, you know, cost of this, that, you know, cost of whatever else. But when you consider that you've got a full weekend pass there, there's so much to see. You would put in 2 days easily at the Dubshed show. You know, if you're taking the time to look at the cars and appreciate the work that's gone into them, like there's so many forum members' cars. You know, there's called one. His BMW is just, you know, it's a daily driver, but it's on the next level. If you take the time to have a proper look at what people have done to the cars and the small modifications, you would easily put a couple of days in there. It shows you that the modifying scene, it hasn't gone away. Like it's still there. It's changed a whole lot over the years since we were starting. You know, since you were in your wee Corolla.
Yeah, back in the day.
I wasn't at the show, but I did get a bit of a live commentary from Andy and Pablo as they were trying to get it. Do you think there's anything can be done traffic-wise there? Like, I know that's not responsibility of the Dubshed organisers, but the Econ Centre really is
the Econ Centre definitely is. You know, there's 2 or 3 access points in and out of there. I think maybe if they spoke to some of the former residents around the maze there's lots of access and egress points around it. No, look, do you know something? That there just needs to be a better road system put in place. Sorry, not road system. There just needs to be the other access points need to be opened up to allow people in. Now, I understand that part of the problem is the fact that there's you know, access to the prison. There's the air ambulance and stuff like that, so they have to. All that there takes marshalling, takes control. But at the end of the day, you know, you've got a 2-day car show that has 100,000 footfall.
Yeah.
No matter what they do or where it's at,
it's a lot of vehicles.
It's out of their control, out of their hands.
Well, let me put this another way. This issue will be handled by guys who are very knowledgeable and put on a very successful show. I have no doubt they'll nail this.
No doubt about it.
For next year. That issue that they face is the same issue, I suppose, that the Balmoral show will. And
anybody goes there.
All the other events have.
When there's football beside us here in Windsor Park, like we're on Boucher Road, you can't get moving on it.
Unless you stagger your arrival times, but then, you know, people want a full day at it. And
So,
there's only so much you can do.
There's only so much you can do. You know, there is the possibility of opening up different, you know, access points in out there, but at the end of the day, it's the same story. No matter what way you do it, there's going to be cars queuing to get into it. As Guy says, it happens at the Balmoral show every year. It happens when there's football matches. You know, it's just our infrastructure here, the roads.
Yeah.
We'll maybe not even talk about that because we've again something we talked about plenty of times, just the state of the roads and the state of things.
The roads are an absolute mess. Now, I did make the point of having a word with Gethin and Nigel about the show. What did they think? And I did put this in my coverage in RMS, but Gethin did say, look, the atmosphere was great. Plenty of diversity amongst the cars and display, and no complaints. All track rally sport experience was a big hit, and then the trophies were fantastic. And the Friday setup was a good decision, he was saying, and then that left Saturday morning much more laid back, which was great too, because the amount of stress those guys most go through, you know, it must be off the charts.
Plus, Nigel says he has his resting bitch face. You know, I saw him a couple of times and there was a few smirks there, but I'm sure the relief that they have come a Sunday evening when it's over and done with, it's just the sigh. And as I said to him, you know, Connor done his thing and I sent him a thing, and that they asked for questions. And I didn't ask them a question because I just give them some, you know, praise because they deserve it. That what they do year in, year out is they raise the bar higher than they even can expect themselves, and people see it and people appreciate it. I love having the guys on the show, so we'll have to have them on again because they have other events on this year. So I think they've Deutsch Collective and Eurotreffen still coming. Yeah, Eurotreffen's actually early this year. It's the start of July, so normally they do it a wee bit later. So I think it's the 1st/2nd of July. We can double check and add it in the show notes. But again, if any of our listeners haven't ever been to that there, Eurotreffen is the epitome of just a really, really nice, relaxed show. It's just got such a cool summer vibe to it. It's the one that's replaced the old Castlewellan GTI show. And if you've never been to one of those shows, think about Cars and Coffee, but just even cooler, even more relaxed, cool locations. Just lovely cars.
I love Deutsch Collective at Scarva House. So
it was cool.
So down in County Armagh, totally different venue, but just again an amazing array of stuff. Really relaxed, a lot of food, bit of crack, and well done, the GTI NI guys. Now, I actually bumped into Gethin the other day. Bit of a segue here at Belfast International Airport at a bright and breezy, like 5 a.m. Because I was.
Was he smiling? Was he?
He was. You know what? He was in good form. He wasn't smiling as much as maybe I was, because I was grinning like a Cheshire cat because, of course, heading over to Lotus.
Mm-hmm.
So about early March, then I got a call from Lotus. I said, right, your car's ready. And I'm like, okay. And they're saying, right, can you, and this was like in the middle of the week, like, can you come tomorrow afternoon? I'm like, no. So I kicked them back 2 or 3 weeks and literally fired together a plan. I had a bit of a plan about how I wanted to collect the car.
Mm-hmm.
It always was go over to the factory in Hethel, Norfolk, and then try and take it to mainland Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And in those sort of intervening 3 weeks, got a bit of a plan together. Me and my mate Robert flew over early doors up the Lotus, and you go into the sort of handover area, and you're there with 2 other groups. So one guy had a GT3 Touring as well. He had a son with him, and then there was another couple of guys, and so the 3 cars getting picked up. They're all under covers, and then coffees, chatting about cars and having the crack. And then guy Scott Walker from Lotus, he does all the handovers, takes us on a factory tour.
It's amazing.
Yeah, going around the place. So, and it was great too, because I was at the factory maybe 4 or 5 years ago before Geely had really taken hold. So now they've all this Volvo investment, and it's changed from cars being pushed about on dollies to cars being moving about on robots. And instead of cars being built with 2 clams, it's now all separate body panels assembled, but still aluminium chassis and glued and riveted body panels, which are made over here, by the way.
Is that right?
Yeah, Performance Composites down the road
wow, okay.
Make the but it's all separate body panels.
These exhausting yet never.
Yeah, so you're standing looking at, and so wee things like I know I have one, and I'm going to say it anyway, but they're a beautiful looking car. But if you look at the way the car actually has front wings, and they fold in underneath the bonnet. You know, those ways. It's just beautiful design, really well thought out design. That's practical because you can pull the wing off if you damaged it or something like that. But the way it's all hidden just looks totally different to any other sort of.
You pulled in this evening, so you have to put up the photograph because we've got a nice wee car park sitting out there tonight.
We do. We have the Emira. We have your E46 Banana. And Gary's stunning
M4 competition
F82.
F82, correct.
Yeah, but I just said to you when you came in, like that. You know, I've seen a few of them. I saw the yellow one you had, but the proportions of that Lotus is just spot on. Like, it's just big flared arches. You know, obviously there's a wheel in each corner, but they're pushed to the edge of the corners. You know, you can just the wee vents, the wee bits and pieces, everything has been thought out by a designer, not just an engineer.
Yeah, I think when the very first pictures came out, people immediately were just drawn to it. And I know it's based loosely on the Evora, and the Evora was a good looking car too, but it lacks kind of the wow factor that this has, because this is very much like as I keep saying, the junior Ferrari, and many people will say that, but that is what you see when you look at it. There's hints of a Ferrari, there's hints maybe of the new MC20 Maserati, there's hints of other cars, hints of Lotus, previous Lotuses.
Yeah.
You know, but it all just really gels perfectly together. It never looks like one part of it doesn't complement the other part.
No, and it's prettier. It honestly is a pretty car, and it's far nicer looking than we've got Ferrari right beside us here, and we were looking. I couldn't tell you the name of 3 or 4 of the new ones, but yet when a Lotus pulls in, you just know the look of it and the angles of it. It's gorgeous.
Well, look, you
bastard.
I'm going to tell you about but before we started recording, we were talking about torture years about the Yaris, and it's going to have to move on. But we're talking about the
Yaris.
Yeah, we're talking about the FK8 Civic.
Yes.
And my biggest problem with that car is not even just necessarily the ASBO wing, but it has lots of fake vents. And I know that because I just stand and look at the Lotus when it's sitting in the garage doing nothing, like a real sad bollocks I am. But you can look through the vents at the back and you can see the back tires, because you know it's aero. That is to get air out of the wheel arches. Yeah. It's there for a practical.
But that's the
purpose.
Lotus ethos, that everything's functional and they're trying to keep the weight down, and then other manufacturers don't always follow that route. Like there's a lot of cars have had plastic vents and things stuck on that don't do any functional purpose.
Well, it does.
You remember even what was the V8 Lexus that came out? It had a false exhaust on one side, or
a
couple of pipes that did nothing, but just there for show.
There's loads of that nowadays, where you see a silver trim piece in the back bumper, and then there's a wee pea shooter sort of tucked in behind.
Fake noise piped in and everything else.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, back to I'm at Lotus. I'm getting the factory tour. There is like 10 pallets of V6 engines. Mm-hmm. There is a supercharger charge cooler part getting rebuilt. There is a gearbox open, showing the gear set and all the rest. There are the machines to put the panels together now. So all the panels are assembled by robot, and then it's like it's not laser check, but it's like a blueprint check. I don't know if it's like an X-ray check or something to do after but all this sort of investment is Geely putting their money into, 100 million quid wouldn't be seen in what they've put in place.
It's modern, isn't it?
And it's amazing too, because they're going to make a lot more Emiras than Lotus have ever made in the past. But really, this is just like a halo exercise, the same way they did the Electra, because they really want to shift the EVs that are all being built in China. Mm-hmm. But it's just magical to see that, and you're going around, and I was walking around this place thinking, I'm at the end of this tour, I'm going to pick one of these up, right? You know when you go to somewhere, and at the end of the tour you're on the Bushmills tour or something like that, and I'll buy myself. Well, back in the day at school, it might have been a pencil sharpener or something. I'll maybe treat myself to a wee 10-year-old bottle of Bushmills. But
you basically get Willy Wonka's golden ticket.
Well, that's the thing. At the end of it, it's like I honestly, the way I was feeling that day, I cannot describe it. And it was so relaxed, and all the other guys the other couple of guys were getting it were the same. Like, we were all just looking at each other, and we were like, what is going on? This is just like, we're in the toy shop and then we're getting the toy at the end. It sounds so childlike and random, but that's how I felt.
You and Shmee and whoever else was there.
But you know something? There's something again. There's something just special, because it is a special car. It's not just, that's not taking anything away from the magic of going and picking up any new car, because the dealers all kind of try and go out their way to make this an experience for you. But from the sounds of things, like that Lotus, the factory tour,
no offense to any of our manufacturers, you say, but a tour of the Vauxhall factory probably wouldn't have grabbed you quite the same way.
No. Well, in fairness, that's where half of Lotus's parts used to come from as well. But no, so that felt, I couldn't imagine going to local dealer and tiled floor with a TV in a background and stand there with a bottle of cheap bubbly and some flowers for the wife.
And your Facebook photo
would have been the same. Do you know what I mean? Whereas we were doing this whole tour, and then you go.
Importantly, did you get a bunch of flowers for your wife?
I did, but not from Lotus. not Lotus branded. Of course, it is.
That's good.
The service station flowers.
I was just going to say.
I'll tell you what I got her was, because it's part of the story of where I took the car. So then they have like a Delia Smith rest. This is so again, I can imagine old Lotus being a crappy old canteen. Now it's a Delia Smith restaurant, and we're sitting there with all the staff, from directors down to the guys on the floor. Mm-hmm. Everyone's sitting, chatting, having lunch, and all the rest. And we had our own table,
wow.
but just the whole atmosphere of the place. People talking about cars and what they're doing, and even the car, staff car parking. Everyone there's into motors. It's an amazing feeling. And so had our lunch. You get a voucher to spend, so the wee shop as well, and you go and buy something, you get a voucher. So you go and buy, I bought a Lotus jacket. Now, if you see me in it, feel free to slag me, because of course you did. You deserve a wee slagging if you pair cruising about in your BMW
beard.
Do you know what it'll be cruising the port in a Scania jacket and the brown boots.
Yeah. Sir.
Sir.
So did that, and then the cars are sitting there, and it's like, right, who's going first? And one guy, he was getting the car put onto a transporter because it was going to get PPF. It's like, right, I'm doing mine first, and then it's like, right, here, before you open it, so what is it you've ordered? And another 20 minutes, and the guy's nearly sweat's pouring off. And he's like, right, I want to see it, And so then you're sort of enjoying other guys' enjoyment of getting it, and one of the guys had a green car, and the other one was green, like dark verdant. It's called really dark green with the brown cinnamon leather here, absolutely gorgeous. Another one was the silvery grey, like Harry Metcalf's. Again, amazing. And it's funny, I was walking around the factory and I saw some body panels of the blue car, and then I saw some blue cars as well, and I was like, oh shit, it looks really flat. Some of these other colours look amazing, and I was like, it's a bit fucking late on now, Andrew. You've waited 2 years for this, you silly bollock. So I seen, and then I saw these two cars, and the silver grey especially, and I was like, oh man, look at that, that's a stunner on silver wheels. Totally different to what I would have picked. But I spec'd this car 18 months ago. And then unveiled mine, and I was like, right, look, it's still a lovely car. And it was only till I brought it out, and it was a beautifully sunny day, blue skies, and then the paint just popped because there's a pearlescent in it, and I was like, oh, absolutely.
You knew you made the right choice.
Class.
But even, like, there's silly things, like, we had a good look at Andy's car before we came in here, and there's silly things like the seats with the yellow stitching in it. It's just, and the yellow brake calipers and that. It's just, there's so many wee small bits and pieces, the details that just make such a difference. And again, it was nice even when you came in here and you could just see the paintwork popping on it. It's gorgeous.
Yes, a lot of nice trim in it. And even when I mentioned the electric seats to you, it's a big step up from a previous Lotus.
So
that I've seen.
Even things like, so it's great getting around the factory. So you're like, we could see like the seats being built, and then Lotus used to do everything, like make their own door cards and all. And a Lotus door card was like a flat panel trimmed. So it's a trim shop, and someone trimmed it with leather and all the rest, but it was all hand done, which meant that it looked like it was hand done. Whereas now it's like, the customer expects a door panel that looks like a Cayman door panel, not what came before. So they get, is it Eisman in Germany, make all their panels, so the panels are flawless.
But that's their competition.
Exactly. So that's where I have, the top half of the dash, it's leather trimmed with yellow stitching. Then it's got Alcantara, and then the bottom half's leather, and just looks perfect. Yeah, and it is perfect.
I think Lotus decided, at some point, do we continue going down this route where we're almost getting closer to kit cars, and that kind of build quality?
Yeah.
Or do we try and move up market and position ourselves opposite Cayman, Porsches, things like that there, and that's what they've done very successfully by the looks of it.
Yeah, and well, like, as you know, that's what I've come from as GT4, and which is a harsh comparison because GT4 is a very good car. The Emira is a slightly different car. Anyway, back to the story. By the way, I'm boring you on this in the podcast. If you haven't seen it, there's 10 minutes of me on YouTube talking about this and sort of trying to take you on the journey. I tried to film as much as possible without ruining the experience for myself for picking up the car, where we took it and all the rest. So picked up Lotus.
And there's also a 10-minute OnlyFans one for anybody who wants to see. Andy and his tidy whitey sliding himself up and down the wings.
These Emiras aren't cheap,
If that would work... People need to want to watch those things to make money out of it. I think it's the business model for
Lotus fans.
Yeah. So into the car and headed straight to the Eurotunnel. Never been in the Eurotunnel. It was fascinating, except the shuttle which you get into. You just rock up, and then as long as you're in within a couple of hours of your booking, they just stick you on the next train. And the trains were 35 minutes to France.
That's so cool.
That's class.
So cool.
And you literally drive on one of the parts of the train, slide back, and you just drive on, and you just keep driving up the whole train, and then pull the shutters and away you go. The train itself is super crummy. It's obviously been the same way from the 1990s, but you're supposed to just sit in the car. You're only there for half an hour, and then you're straight back out again. And you've nearly spent as much time going through passport control, and even that was quick. But then we went to we stayed in a place called Reims. It looks like Reims. And that is the home of a Formula 1 circuit, and that's the picture that I've been torturing you all with the Emira outside the
poster shot.
Yeah, absolutely amazing poster shot behind all the old F1 hoardings. That was class. Then we went to Stuttgart starting to pile on some major miles at this stage. I think we had 400 miles done on the first day, something like that. But by the time we were wrecked, it was 4 a.m. start, like it was absolutely knackered. Stuttgart for the Porsche and Mercedes Museum. So ever looking a car trip away, go to Stuttgart. You could spend a couple of those days in those amazing museums. And then on our way to Stuttgart, we actually drove past Hockenheim. So we called into the Hockenheim circuit on the way up the road, then went to the ring, out in the ring, pile of laps, couple of steaks, steak and stone.
Amazing.
And then back up the road. So 1,600 mile, just like that.
How long was that? 2 or 3 days? Or
we left on the Thursday and we were home on Monday lunchtime, something like that there.
Aye, so 500 a day. Sorry, not 500 a day, obviously.
300 and something
300 a day,
yeah, something like that, you know. So it was a good test of the car, Autobahn and all the rest.
You were limited RPM, weren't you?
4K, and then sort of as the miles go up, 5.5.
Was that a hard limit, or were you having to stick to it yourself?
Stick to it yourself.
Aye, so temptation all the time.
Yeah, temptation all the time. But really, the first lot of miles, especially that first day, like we were just on the cruise, taking it handy, and then after that, just starting to open her up a bit, you know.
And how, you know, it's still a really new engine. Could you feel it loosening up, or?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, it is opening up, but that's more because I was driving it on more. Certainly by the end of the trip, you know, you were using all the rev range and stuff like that, so like you were starting to feel the performance.
You're starting to really feel the performance.
Yeah. So no, it's really good. It's so torquey because of the supercharger.
Yeah.
So it's really easy just to punt about the place at a really good at a good pace. You know.
How do you find the noise of it? That's one thing I haven't really heard much about. Or
you had
a Navora.
They have tuned the exhaust beautifully. It sounds class. That Toyota V6 engine with the charger on it, it sounds absolutely immense.
Yeah.
So it does. On full chat, it wails. Absolutely wails. It's class.
You could hear you coming in when we were down here, and it was just a really nice, because again, with most of the cars now with petrol particulate filters and that there, it really does mute noises in a lot of new cars.
Yeah.
But you could hear that one coming in.
It has a GPF, you know, so it has all that.
And at risk of tempting fate, now that you've got one, what about after sales care and all that? Is it done by Hearsts, or are they just doing sales?
So no, Hearsts haven't opened their Lotus Centre yet, but yeah, that's where that's where I'll take the car. It comes with 3 years warranty, so yeah, so that's where I'll take it. And it does. It hasn't been completely fault free, but it was, as a drive, it was faultless. There's a problem with the auto wipers. When you get a lashing rain, they don't auto wipe on the fast for some reason. There's a wee bit of road noise around the above the wing mirrors, but on their pillarless doors, you know, and you can run your finger up the door seal and you can hear the whistle change. So there must, but I know for the wipers that there's going to be a fix coming. The door seal I'll give off about, but once they get up and running, and hopefully they'll get sorted. But that's, you know, they're very, very minor.
Yeah, it's a minor issue for a hand-built car.
Yeah, totally. So no, it's great. Like, so
awesome.
So look, go watch the video because I think I have bored you absolutely all the tears.
But you deserve to. And look, the good news is, after 25 previous episodes, this could be the last we hear of that fucking Yaris.
Possibly.
I don't hear anything more. But by the way,
to say go now.
But I have to say, how long are we in this podcast? 25 minutes, half an hour.
Yep.
I think we have to commend him for not fucking slabbering about the Yaris yet. I was expecting that to be the first thing we talked about tonight.
He's Lotus in the brain now, you see, so that's it.
There's nothing to be slagged about the Yaris. It is amazing.
Oh no, I know.
It is amazing.
I know.
Ross knows this because
I know.
not the only video that I've posted up in the last while.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
The Banana Zero Toyota San.
I'm being very quiet here, so I'm deliberately very quiet.
Semi-homologated Rally type special versus what? How do you describe an E46 nowadays?
A couple of episodes ago, we had Ben on from Straightliners NI. Ben kindly invited us to... which I forgot about until was it Ben messaged or you messaged me saying,
have you got your race license yet?
Like, what?
Frig, what for?
What for? Oh, that's right, to kick your ass at the... Now,
There may have been some friendly rivalries and friendly banter, and I may have had a bet with Cooper about becoming a moderator in RMS even for
24 hours.
24 hours.
I haven't decided what your
what the
penance
punishment is yet.
Absolutely, but full confession,
to become a moderator in RMS for 24 hours.
If I had been better organised, my thought was, do you know what? There's not a chance in hell I'm going to let you win. And I was going to get on the phone to DTUK or Litchfield or something like that and get a box sent over.
You didn't need
plug her in for a day, and I didn't need to. In the end.
You definitely didn't.
Stage 5 for 10 minutes.
So there was half the CC, half the cylinders.
This is down at Bishop's Court.
Down at Bishop's Court. So we done the straight liners, and I have to say, first and foremost, it was a really well ran event for the first time at it. A few things they had to pick up on, tidy up on. There was longer delays.
There's a big delay at the start, but I think they got going in the end.
But they got going, and when cars were moving through, they were moving through really, really quickly. So we had around a half hour, 40-minute wait, but that's because I think there was like a lunchtime break in the middle of it as well.
There was.
So we, Andy and I got lined up beside each other, and I'm going to be really honest here. I was feeling quite confident, so I was.
So Ross, we met before we went down to the drag strip. And Ross had just got his it was a 4-1 back end in crown wheel and pinion in his E46, and I took it a run. And do you know what? Transformational to that car, because they are too long geared.
Yeah,
there's no need for them to do 105 mile an hour in third gear. So that really helped.
Mm-hmm. So we met, and Andy had said he hadn't driven an M3 since he had one, so I turned the keys and told him to take a run on it, and I said, don't be afraid, don't be holding back on it. So you drove it hard, and you came back to me and you had a smirk on your face going, this could be interesting. So I was feeling quite confident at that stage. I had myself convinced that, look, if I can launch...
Do you think I was telling the truth?
Yeah.
I think you better pull 2 coil packs out.
We've a 4-cylinder E46.
That was explainable.
Sabotage. And I was convinced that, look, I know those Yarises I know they're quick. I've been in a couple of them, and everything about them is just a really wee, quick pocket rocket. But if I can launch properly, this M3 will do okay. And if I could have launched properly, the M3 would have done okay.
Well, those E46s, if memory serves, don't they have some sort of delay valve?
Mm-hmm. The clutch delay valve, yeah.
Do you have that out?
No, but that's something that needs to be done, because you can feel the difference, can't you?
Yeah, so I thought that after I drove it, I thought, there's something about these and the gear change, and you can feel it in it. And then the other thing is things like the gear position, that shift. Mm-hmm. It's and this is to do with the age of the car and all the rest. So it's quite a long throw. Do you have a short shift kit in it?
No, but I have a short shift order for it, so I
think that'll all really help. Mm-hmm. Bite point's quite low to the floor, is it?
Yeah.
See, I was calculating these things in my eyes there. I was like, I think we're going to be all right here.
Not only were you calculating things, when we're lining up, Gary, out comes Mr. fucking Doodah with his air compressor to make sure his tyre pressures are right, and I'm sitting going, there you go. I was just here, like, I didn't take the sub out the bit, I didn't take out, like, no weight saving.
You actually had tyres?
Yeah.
That was only because I flicked on the TPMS, because I'm a professional, and the tyre pressures were all over the place, so it was just the gauge, because I have to have the gauge on, do the tyre pressures, and then see you later.
But other than that, they're pretty much like the Yaris is manual, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's no launch control, there's nothing funny going on. It was just driver ability.
It doesn't have launch control. So that was another thing. So we rolled up to the line, and we had been standing watching the guys do the launches before, and there was the guy who sort of checks that everyone's okay to go and all the rest. We pulled up to the line, and I had seen him, and he was in line with the 2 drivers. Mm-hmm. But with us, he was doing my quarter panel somewhere.
Yep.
So I was looking around and sort of waving. Next thing I turned around and lights started appearing, and I literally had the time the time to put clutch, and I almost did it at the same time, the clutch on the throttle to the bulkhead, and first, and she got to about $4,000, and that was go time, and I just sidestepped.
Does yours have a soft limiter, or will it go to 4 grand, or will it go more?
Oh no, it will rev to the limiter, but I just didn't have enough time to rev it that hard. Because I had practiced a couple of times. You can get 6.5 grand. You can light all 4 wheels in it to get her off the line. But thankfully, I had just about enough revs, so she didn't bog down. Anything less than that, she could have
stalled. Whereas I was the complete opposite. So I give it about 8,000 reps.
You just a big ball of smoke.
Smoked the back tires.
Yeah. But here, what a lot of fun,
mate. Do you know something? I'm not even like, even now, like, we're laughing, we're having a bit of fun, and that's actually that was the best bit about it. So, what were we? 11. What were you? Were you 12 second, were you?
No, 13 and a half.
13 and a half.
I
was like a half second behind.
8 seconds.
But do you know something?
There was a boy with a calendar at the end.
It was like somebody done a slow motion video the whole way.
I've gone from seconds to days.
But it was just brilliant fun. So it was like, do you know something? Like, what was that Eminem, knees weak, palms are sweaty. When I was sitting on the line watching those air lights, and I looked over at you once or twice, and it was just, you're waiting for those air lights to go because you don't want to jump the line, you don't want to do anything else. You didn't want to smoke the tyres on it. Now, it was just flipping brilliant fun. And do you know what the best bit? See, at the end of it, we got to come back around the drift circuit then. I was like, I'm going fucking full set. So I might have got beat. I might have got beat down the line.
I enjoyed the showboating at the end. It was excellent.
So the showboating at the end, and Andy, you lifted the wand, and I had 2 or 3 corners linked together, and it was a full-on drift one way, full-on the other way, and it was just
brilliant.
It is good crack, and it's the kind of thing like the everyday man can kind of go to. If you've something you want to take to the guy. I did a fair bit of it down Hadoui back in the Integra days, and had an E36, I think I took the drag race one time, but you can show up, do your drag for 10, 20 seconds, go away. It's not like you have to go and track all day and spend a fortune at it,
And some fantastic stuff there. The bikes, that 911 Turbo that
Bodie was
driving. Some of the stuff there was just absolutely lightning.
Just some
Richard Bradley was there. There was a lot of great stuff, but great crack.
It was great crack. It comes back something I spoke to Ben about afterwards, and it's not just sour grapes, but these modern cars, 500, 600, 700 horsepower modern cars with launch control, they've taken so much away from, when you think about it, I've a 340 brake horsepower M3 going through the back wheels, and I didn't get it right, and it just smoked up the tyres. Those guys have got twice the horsepower, 3 times the horsepower on some of them.
Yeah, and a lot of electronic assistance.
And a lot of electronic assistance, like literally left foot in the brake, right foot and go pedal, and then stomp them both to the floor and let go of the brake, and the car does everything else for you.
I saw there was a Model 3 performance there on that front. Was it doing well? Was it?
It was doing well, but I need to find the videos of it. There was a Mark 5 Golf GTI, beat it.
Wow.
Which I think everybody was shocked about, because again, what's Tesla's, not just Tesla, what's most EVs' party piece?
Yeah.
Going off the line like a rocket ship. Yeah. And for a Mark 5 Golf GTI that are still a sharp car, there's no doubt about it. Guy and I were speaking about, a friend of mine has one earlier on, he's an Edition 30, and I was surprised at just how quick it was. I went out for a run with him yesterday, excuse me, and you forget about, what a fun car they are, and with a wee bit of mild tuning, they can really push on.
A stage 1 sort of Mark 5, a standard one is a wee bit anemic, but a stage 1, like a 260, 270 brake.
My brother had one, a GTI with a stage 1 map, I think, and a couple of things done this a few years back. But at first drive I had, and it blew me away. I couldn't believe how well it went. That
DSG box in them, and it just goes. But the modern cars with launch control, it would be nice to see if they switched the launch control out there off, or traction control off, just to see how it would fare. I think that those 11-second quarters that a lot of them were doing would be plus 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah. Totally,
100%.
But no, brilliant fun, and it was great crack. And I think there's another one coming up now in a few weeks' time, so I'm definitely going to go down to it again.
How, just along with we're talking about Dubshed and the other GTNI shows, how fortunate are we that to have a drag racing championship here?
Man, it's unreal.
And not to mention the cars and coffee events. So I didn't make this, but it's all right, because my doppelganger did, and yes, all funny feckers decide, sure, let's text Andy. Saw you down at Down Royal, knowing rightly that it was the other blue Emira.
I think my text said common as muck already.
Exactly.
It's. Actually, there was a queue of cars coming in, and I spotted the blue one, and I did genuinely think it was you for a while, because you'd said you might come down.
Yeah.
And I started walking towards it and realised it wasn't, but yeah, that's very eye-catching from a distance even.
And I heard that was, you were down, I heard that was an absolutely fantastic.
Brilliant show. Like, I've been there before. It's, like what you say about Dubshed, it's incredibly relaxed. It's a Sunday morning thing. You go out for a couple of hours. It had rained a bit overnight, but it had dried up, so it was a nice morning for it. Loads of cars. It's all for charity. It's run by TSCC, the Thoroughbred Sports Car Club, and I didn't get a count of the cars, but there's probably a couple hundred there at least, and it doesn't feel like a car show. It just feels like cars and coffee, but on a very large scale. And there's a coffee van, there's a van doing breakfast bap, stuff like that there, and people dander around. It's just so relaxed. There's no raving or carrying on. People are chatting. I've seen people there hadn't seen for 20 years and had really good catch up with someone. And they run about 5 or 6 of these, I think, up through the summer. So it's probably every 5 or 6 weeks there's one, something like that on average.
Brilliant, and they always seem to have really unusual stuff at that. So I think I picked out something to post on the RMS socials. It was like one was an AXGT. But just mad, and then you have stuff from the 50s there, and supercars, and all
it's
sorts.
So diverse. Yeah, you have Ferraris, McLarens, stuff like that, the usual kind of stuff, the poster cars, and then, as you say, even XGT sitting in the middle of it, a couple of old Porsches, a Mustang, left-hand drive Mustang, a Camaro, and everything in between. So really interesting.
On that note, and I do have an excuse not to be there. I was in Germany at the time, picking up with the Emira, but the RMS Cars and Coffees now, which are running up in Mollusk every sort of 4 or 5 weeks, that looked like a fantastic turnout as well, and that's just a credit to the forum and the diverse nature of it as well. It was,
but I think there's been 3 members on the day though that got home and got a wee letter through the post on Monday or Tuesday.
Oh no.
And see that actual place, because I saw someone post the dash cam. Someone posted dash cam footage of where the speed fan was, and I remember I was going to be interviewed in the Reload podcast, and the day I went to do that in the Lotus, I got scooped in exactly the same place. It's
almost like they're watching what's going on, isn't it?
Well, no, that's unfortunately that's a standard place where
even
that
on Sunday morning.
It's there, and that road used to be a 50 and a 60, and now it's a 40.
It's a 40, yeah.
And
it was always kind of dodgy up around there, like me and Andy had some memories of being chased around Mollusk. Or popular being chased.
Exactly. But so the RMS Cars and Coffee as well. Another great way to spend a Sunday morning.
Funny, it's the one thing that we have talked about it before. It's like everything, it's making time for it, but with kids and with their sporting activities and stuff like that, it's harder and harder sometimes to get to the shows and that there. But that's actually one of the good things, with the variety of the cars and coffee events that we have over here, and the locations of them. There's always something to fit, to kind of fit in with your timetable out there. So
that's what I loved about Down Royal last Sunday morning, because my son actually had a birthday party in the afternoon, and I had to take him to that and then meet up with other people. Went to Down Royal, great variety of cars, supercars. Only there for about 2 hours. When I was as satisfied leaving it as any car show. And it used to be you went to Cars and Coffee, and there'd be maybe 10 or 15 cars. That would be it. So.
Have you done Blackheath?
No,
up in the north. I've done it a couple of times. It's another amazing spot. Again, totally different, and sort of different geographic areas. You get different people up there. I know the Porsche Club Ireland guys go up there, and you get to buy lunch, and it's an old stately home and stuff like that. Again, just lovely surroundings, up for a couple of hours and back down the road again.
I'll have to try that.
It's great to have these things.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that leads on to something I had made a few points about. We're talking about road trips, we're talking about this, that and the other. Have you been keeping up to date with, there's Chris TII and a few other ones of the forum are heading over to Croft. No, sorry, not Croft, Anglesey. They're going to do an Anglesey road trip. I think there's 5%. Coog, I think, is going along as well.
I would absolutely love to go. I am in a negatory brownie point situation. at the moment.
You've overstretched your brownie points.
But it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Where are you?
Not when she owns half the Lotus Emira.
I'm not going to be home tonight.
There's really bad reception in the pits here. Yeah, so that's fantastic. That's a brilliant trip. So get a look at the Anglesey trip on RMS. I have driven Anglesey a stack of times. It is an amazing circuit. It is like 20 minutes from the ferry, the Holyhead ferry. So, and the circuit's first class. It's on the island of Anglesey, right on the water, so you can get lovely shots. If you get your photos right, you can have the car and the sea in the background on the track, flat out.
I've never been there, but Evo do a lot of testing there, and their photos are always amazing. You know, just you see the car coming over crest and the sea behind it.
Yeah. So it's a decent size of track, lots of really good corners. You have off camber stuff, wee bit of hills, and decent enough.
I'd say that'll just be good fun because again, there's a nice bunch of guys going, nice cars going, and. Yeah, something again. Looking at different things like you doing your Europe trip and that there's just such a nice kind of thought and atmosphere, and a few mates going for a drive and taking in a track day, taking in a wee bit of dragging, whatever else.
I did see on the forum Coog is offering the back of his Hiace for £180 a night.
That's cheap.
So. I would definitely recommend that if you can't get the travel lodge.
Smile, you're on Cook Cam.
Yeah, so first class. Speaking of Golfs earlier, and talking about Mark V, do you hear that they're doing away with the Golf? The Mark 8's going to be the last one.
Actually didn't, and I was reading that in your show notes, and I was thinking, like, what's going on there? And is it that they're doing it away with it, like they did away with the Cavalier, but then they brought it to Vectra and give it a new name? Essentially, same replacement.
Well, I don't know what the thinking is, but is it Volkswagen have ID3, ID4, ID Buzz, all that sort of stuff now, and do they think, right, Golf is tied to the old ice world? The piston car world
mentality.
I think it's absolute madness because Golf it's the most, possibly the most iconic name in car culture. Really, I think they're
like, even if its replacement is still intents and purposes a Golf underneath, it's still the brand name. It's what people attach to it.
Yes.
I think the ID2 looks very Golf-like, or the concepts of it. But to take away the Volkswagen Golf is just.
It's just, I don't know why they do. Mark 9 Golf, it's electric.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Because I don't know, when did the Mark 8 come out? The last couple of years. So
yeah, again, I hadn't heard about it till I read your show notes, and then I saw that the each Mark comes with like a 7-8 year life cycle. So the Mark 8 is 3 years or 4 years into it at the minute. So there's maybe only 4 years of Volkswagen Golf.
Yeah. So come 2030, I suppose they're looking at the ban on ice cars. Although interestingly, Germany is actually the country that's starting to roll back a bit on that, and looking at e-fuels, synthetic fuels, all that sort of stuff. And thinking, right, well, do you know what? Going fully electric isn't the entire answer, which we all knew anyway.
Yeah. Again, it was one of the things that I put up in RMS is the Ukraine post, but I linked to a Joe Rogan podcast where there was a guy, Peter, I can't even pronounce it begins with the letter Z, but he basically done this whole thing, and he talked about the dirty secret that is EV, and he's put it down, something that I think we all realise, that there's not enough raw materials in the world to provide all the, enough to keep making new batteries.
Yep.
And even if there is, there's not enough electricity in the grid created by all these factories and everything to keep them going. So EVs, he in one of the YouTube things that he put up about as well, he thinks they've got a 10 to 15 year lifespan, and he says EV is not the way. It's something that we think is the way. He could be wrong, but when you actually listen to what he has to say about it, it's really interesting.
It's a band-aid.
Yeah, it's a band-aid, exactly, and something that's not going to fix the problem that's not really there.
Yeah, at the moment. So there are going to be changes. There have to be changes in the infrastructure. In fact, I think, was it earlier this week, you now get charged to overstay fees on our chargers here.
Not only that there, but if you listen out, that's not a plane flying over. I think that's a violin. That's Rocco's tears, because free electric is gone.
Yeah.
There was a few different posts up on different things today about chargers. I don't know you'll know about it, but there's some map that shows where
Sat map.
Yeah. So where all the rest of the
Grinder.
EV leeches are getting their free electric.
It does only matter of time. If they can charge you for it, they will.
Yeah, but they're not blue anymore to show that they're taking
no
up.
free lunches.
That there's all green, and I put in a couple of screenshots there that you can drop in. That the public charging points are all empty now that people are having to pay for it.
If you want a good laugh, have a read of the EV thread, and in particular about the Bloomfield Shopping Centre in Bangor, and some infamous charge hogging going on there. So it'll be interesting to see if that knocks that on the head.
It's funny you mentioned, Andy, the 2030 thing, because I'd actually been reading that the other day. I don't think it was just Germany. There was another European country, I can't remember who, but I think they were kind of stepping back a little bit from it too. And then as I was reading it, I was just looking at the figures in the UK. So there's actually 33 million cars currently in the UK, but EVs and hybrids make up less than 1 million. Mm-hmm. So despite all the talk, despite every magazine or every car magazine you see now, it's all EV in the cover and everything else.
Yep.
It's still a very, very small kind of proportion of it all, So it'll be interesting to see how much, we're 7 years away from this monumental change that they're talking about, and how much that'll change in the next 7 years. And
it's becoming a lot more expensive to run an EV as well. We were on the Click Energy tariff, which was 5p a unit overnight. So it was to run our iPace to do 1,000 miles was like 20 quid, and it's now 15p a unit, so it's 60 quid a month, or 60 quid for 1,000 miles. So that's a fair jump. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still the equivalent of like 150 miles per gallon or something like that.
You still have all the infrastructure problems. Sorry, Roscoe.
I said you're right in what you're saying. In the grand scheme of things, it's still a lot cheaper. But as you were just about to say, it's the infrastructure is.
There's not enough chargers. The ones that are there, half of them don't work. And you had that experience yourself when you bought the Jaguar, and you're trying to get it back. You look at something like they're throwing 100 billion, I think, at this HS2 network, and that's one transport thing that they're championing. But there doesn't seem to be any big investment plans for the infrastructure. It just seems to be kind of coasting along at the moment. ESB
claim in Northern Ireland that because they can now charge, they're saying, well, they'll plough this money back into the infrastructure and start replacing all the chargers that are just street furniture, to be honest, because half of the bloody ESB chargers don't work. And I hope they do, because it'll make a dramatic difference. But I meant to ask, Gary, what about the ID4? Any word of it appearing?
July, apparently.
Wow, yes, so it's been kicked back.
Which reminds me, I need to get my finger out and get a charger ordered.
Because at 25p plus 49p per kilowatt hour, you're not be too long racking up your charges.
Well, I've seen some charging at like 69p a kilowatt, which is more expensive than diesel.
Yeah.
But that's the problem. It's the problem and also the cure for public charging. Public charging, you want it there when you need it. And not that some bugger is hogging it, but it's sort of going the other way where it then becomes very expensive to use. I'm seeing it already. I'm on the EVA and I group and stuff like that on Facebook and on RMS too. You see some people saying, like, I've had an EV for a couple of years, all these charges are coming in, I can't stomach it. That wasn't, and some people maybe moved to EV on a very fine tolerance of spreadsheet calculations, and then suddenly they're like, flip, you know what, this isn't going to work for me, and I totally understand that.
Yeah, and again with the culmination of all these things, like Tesla, slashing the prices. There's a friend of ours who's basically been told that his Tesla he's in negative equity with it because people aren't interested in trading now because all the value that was in that car, by Elon making his decisions overnight, by these charges coming in, by everything else, people are going, frig, EVs are, they're a 40,000, 50,000 pound, not desperately economical when you add all these things up.
It's a big proposition. I read yesterday, it was quite interesting too, that they expect that insurance companies will write off more EVs for minimal damage than they ever did petrol and diesel cars because the cost of the battery replacements and things are so high.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other conversation on the forum. There's a big chat about people's insurance quotes going through the roof recently. In the last 6 months, just insurance doubling for no great reason, and the insurance companies are trotting out, well, it's the cost of living, it's the cost of energy and all the rest, but not the case where your premium is maybe 300 or 400 quid and then they quote you 1,100.
No one ever says it's profiteering. That's probably what it is. But.
Anyway, here we're bound to have something far more interesting and fossil fuel orientated to talk about. Gary, save us.
Gordon Murray Automotive T50, as far away from an EV as you can get. This car is obviously, it's been in the news and automotive news for a long time. It's been talked about in RMS, but it's actually gone into production now, so it's been kind of over the magazines again and the websites over the last week or two. And I was just rereading about it and just watching a few videos on YouTube of Dario Franchitti.
Yeah.
He seems to have been hired as not their PR man, but their kind of public face of driving it, and very good driver it is.
He's great, yeah.
Yeah, so it's amazing. Just watching YouTube, listening to it, just sounds like an F1 car no matter where he's driving it. And I was looking at some of the stats. So 12,100 RPM rev limit.
It's unreal.
So it gives you an idea. It weighs 986 kilograms. So for context, it's 100 kilograms or so lighter than a Vauxhall Corsa that you buy nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's 664 horsepower. And the thing you mentioned there, Andy, about your lunch in the Yaris, and how quick it revs to 4,000 RPM.
Yeah.
So this car can rise 28,500 RPM per second.
That's unreal.
Which is, you can't really even, I think, conceptualize that.
That's better than motorbike levels of revs. That's unreal.
So it goes from 0 to 12,000 revs in 0.3 seconds. That's just really light engine components, light flywheel. Everything's over-engineered. Everything's built to so many tolerances. And
that engine's amazing.
Pure engineering.
Built this engine. It's a beautiful looking thing. Yeah, unreal.
I like some of those Boras up in the port with the popcorn rippers.
So this is basically a McLaren F1 Mark II. Even though there's been McLaren models since, they're not really in the same kind of shed as the F1, so to speak. But really, really looking forward to actually hearing some reviews now and see as good a drive as it sounds.
If you highly recommend Johnny Smith's videos. If you look at the Late Break Show and watch him going to visit Gordon Murray, and he's done the T50, and he's done his car collection, and well worth a watch. But I think on that note, guys, there's an hour.
We're going to hit our rev limit.
We have hit. We're stuck in the limiter here, and we need to get out the door. We've enjoyed the podcast. You can tell people about the podcast and tag us at RMS Motoring everywhere. Make sure you what do you have to do? Like and subscribe.
Yeah, my 3-year-old, or sorry, my 5-year-old, he's like, thumbs up and like and subscribe. So
smash that bell icon.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw caution in the wind and say subscribe and like.
Oh, are you? Anyway, on that note, we'll be back soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.
And remember, there's no warranty. This is sold as seen.